Hello and welcome to Life at PALS. Today we will continue with the life science questions that we have started in the previous screencasts, and we will continue with question 55. Alright, let's get started. Refer to the following information to answer question 55 to 57. Photosynthesis is a process used by autotrophs to convert light energy, normally from the sun, into chemical energy that can later be used for metabolic activities. The general chemical equation for photosynthesis is 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus light energy reacts to form C6H12O6 plus 6O2, or in words, carbon dioxide plus water plus light energy gives sugar plus oxygen. An experiment was conducted in which one bean plant was placed in a sunny window and the other was placed in a dark room. Both plants were supplied with equal amounts of water. After 1 day, one leaf from each plant was tested for the presence of sugar. So in this information, we are told what photosynthesis is, we get the equation for it, and some information about an experiment to investigate photosynthesis. What is the most likely outcome of the test? The plant that was kept in the dark room will die. The leaf from the plant kept in the dark room will show the presence of sugar because there is enough water and carbon dioxide. Only the leaf from the plant in the window will show signs of sugar because sunlight is necessary for photosynthesis. Neither leaf will show signs of the presence of sugar because 1 day is not enough time for photosynthesis to occur. So an experiment was conducted in which one bean plant was placed in a sunny window and the other was placed in a dark room. Both bean plants were supplied with equal amounts of water, and after 1 day, one leaf of each plant was tested for the presence of sugar. So that was the experiment that was conducted. And 1 day in the dark will not kill a plant, and we don't get any information about that as well. The leaf from the plant kept in a dark room will show the presence of sugar. No, because it didn't have light. It does have carbon dioxide and water, but we require light energy for photosynthesis as well. Therefore, only the leaf from the plant in the window will show signs of sugar. That is correct. Neither leaf will show signs of sugar. No, 1 day in the light is definitely enough to do photosynthesis. So the correct answer here is C. Which of the following is the most important step in the experiment? Placing the bean plants in identical pots, keeping both of the plants in the dark for 24 hours so that previously produced sugars are not present, using distilled water so that the minerals or other chemicals do not hinder the results, ensuring that no worms are present in the soil. So A, C, and D. As long as we keep conditions the same for both plants, it doesn't really matter. So identical pots is important, yes, but not that important, because we're investigating whether the plant does photosynthesis or not. Using distilled water or normal water doesn't really matter, ensuring that no worms are present in the soil. Worms could be present in the soil, will not have a big effect. What's very important is that both plants are kept in the dark for 24 hours before the experiment to remove any previously produced sugars, because we want to see the difference between having the plant in the light for a day and having it in a dark room for a day. So before we start the experiment, we should remove all the sugar from the leaves by keeping both plants in the dark beforehand, because that could falsify our results for sure. So B is the correct answer here. The end products of photosynthesis, not products of a reaction, pretty straightforward. Sugar and oxygen. Refer to the following graphic to answer question 58 and 9. The picture represents an ecosystem. Trees, mountains, animals, grass, snake, squirrel, some wolves, some rabbits. What is the primary producer of energy in the ecosystem? The primary producer is an organism that uses the energy from sunlight and does photosynthesis to produce organic molecules, produce their own food. A stream that starts in the mountains doesn't contain any energy. The sun, that's potentially possible. The insects in the grass and trees, nope. It's the primary source of energy in the ecosystem. The smaller animals such as rabbits and squirrels, nope. So the sun. So again, primary producers, the organisms at the base of every ecosystem, of every food chain, of every food web, require sunlight energy to be able to produce the food for all the other organisms in the ecosystem. So the sun. The wolves in the ecosystem hunt for rabbits, which eat the plants present in the ecosystem. This is an example of a food chain, not a food web. A food web shows several interactions. It shows all the feeding interactions in our ecosystem and interconnections between organisms in terms of feeding. Here we have one individual path of energy from the plants to the rabbits to the wolves. That is one straight line. A food chain is one path that the energy takes through a food web. Use the following information to answer question 60. Bacteria can be classified by whether they need oxygen to live. Aerobic bacteria can survive only in places where oxygen is plentiful. Aerobic means the need of oxygen. Anaerobic bacteria are found only where oxygen is limited or entirely absent. Anaerobic refers to the absence of oxygen. And facultative anaerobes can survive with or without oxygen, so they can live in both conditions. This usually refers to the way that organisms release their energy from food with the cellular respiration process. There are two forms: anaerobic respiration and aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen to break down glucose, to break down sugar and release it. Anaerobic respiration does not require that. In which places would aerobic bacteria be able to survive? In fermenting wine. Fermenting is a form of anaerobic respiration, so therefore we can exclude A. In the upper atmosphere, in infected human lungs, inside a rotten piece of wood. In the upper atmosphere, where there's not much else, there's oxygen, but there's not much else in terms of food, so I guess we can exclude B. Inside a rotten piece of wood, rotten usually indicates anaerobic conditions, so probably not D. In infected human lungs, this is where oxygen is continuously supplied to, so that's probably where aerobic bacteria would be able to survive. Use the following information to answer question 61 to 63. A plant scientist developed a new hybrid grass by crossing a desert grass with a shade grass. To determine the hybrid's ideal growing conditions, an experiment is performed in which the hybrid is grown in 4 different planters. Each planter is provided sunlight and water, as shown in the table below. The average height of the grass in each planter is recorded weekly. Planter A has a watering schedule 3 times per week, same as planter B. Planter C and D are watered once every 2 weeks. So here we have 2 different watering schedules. And then we have amount of sunlight, 8 hours or more per day, 4 hours or less per day, and 8 hours or more per day, 4 hours or less per day. Which of the following conditions, if not met, would least affect the results of the experiment? What would least affect the results of our experiment? The depth of the soil should be identical in the 4 planters. The planters should be weed-free. The same type of soil should be placed in all 4 planters. The 4 planters should be kept on the same table. So the least I would say is the same table, because we are regulating the amount of sunlight per day anyway, so the position on a table or something that would most likely eventually affect the amount of sunlight, but since this is controlled, I would go for this. The others may all affect the growth of the grasses. The depth of the soil means the amount of space that roots have available to grow. The more roots, the faster the growth eventually. So A does affect the growth rate. The planters should be weed-free. The wheat is a competitor with the grass, so that would definitely affect its growth. The same type of soil should be placed in all 4 planters, because they could contain different types of nutrients which could affect the growth of the plants differently of the grasses. So least effect would have D. Which 2 planters should be compared to determine the effect of water on the growth of the hybrid grass when it receives the maximum amount of sunlight? So maximum amount of sunlight is 8 hours per day, so that is planter A has maximum amount and planter C has maximum amount, and they have different watering schedules. 3 times per week, once every 2 weeks. Again, which 2 planters should be compared to determine the effect of water on the growth in maximum amount of sunlight? So we are comparing planter A and C, or C and A. Identify the independent and dependent variables in this experiment. So this is a bit of a special experiment because we have 2 independent variables. We are changing the watering schedule and the amount of sunlight. So independent are amount of water and amount of sunlight. Now the independent variable is what we change on purpose to see the effect on of it in our experiment. And how do we see the effect? We need to measure something, and this is our dependent variable, and this is probably mentioned in the text. The average height of the grass in each planter is recorded weekly, so that is our dependent variable, the height of the grass. All right, thank you for tuning in, and I hope I could help you with your preparation for the GED science test. Yeah, another one will follow in the future, a few more to continue to go through additional questions. Until then, have a good day, and I see you next time. Goodbye.